I'm Koyuki. Today, I have my first guest, whose name is Ichim. She's a founder of a company called Florica Therapeutics. I'm going to ask her a bunch of questions because I'm very, very excited about biology and then the industry as a whole. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on your show.
You're the first guest.
I'm very excited. Me too.
Same here. Well, first of all, what motivated you to become an entrepreneur and start your company?
I wanted to make a difference. I was inspired by my mother. Everything I know, I learned from my mother. Well, when I was 10, my mother was diagnosed with leukemia. She had 6 babies. I was number 2. She had just had her last baby. She got a phone call from the doctor saying, stop breastfeeding, you need to start chemo. Yeah. She went into the doctor and she said, is there any hope? How long will I live? He said, 2 years, maybe 3, then you'll be hospitalized, and by 5 years, it's over. So all she wanted was to see my baby brother grow up to reach 5 years old so he wouldn't go into child services. Because of medical research, she lived 8 years. At that point, I rollerbladed across Canada.
That's crazy, by the way. For some of you might not actually know how big Canada is. It's big, and even driving through Canada is hard. But how did you do that?
Willpower. The doctors told my mom it was over. She's entered the accelerated phase. She had beat the odds. We've done everything we could. The only thing I could do was give her hope. So I kissed her goodbye, and when I hugged her, she said, if you make it, I'll make it. Oh my God, when she says that,
it's a courageous moment. Yeah.
And so it was mountains and prairies, and then you get to you do the Rocky Mountains, and it's horrible. And then you get to the prairies, and you think it's going to be easy, and you have the wind in your face. Yeah. And, I just kept thinking about the why. And it's the same with entrepreneurship. If you have a why, it's amazing the sort of things you can endure. But yeah, I think 150 dogs chased me. At one point, a bear.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. We slept on the side of the road, pitching a tent in rain, torrential rain. The next day we had to meet with the Governor General of Canada, so, you spiff yourself up. And so it's from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high. And it's only like the entrepreneurial journey. Nothing defines you. You're not low and you're not high. You're always the same person. And you can't let all these external events define you. And so the amazing thing was I made it back home. I made it through all these obstacles. Like our mononucleosis at the end. I was so tired and so sick I would fall asleep on the side of the road. But I made it. I would just wake up and I would think to myself, there's no way I could possibly go on. But I just had to take one more step. And then just one more step, and that's the way I finished. And I get back home and I kissed my mom and she made it.
Wow.
But 1 year passes, she's still alive. 2 years passes, she's still alive. Doctors discovered Gleevec. I'm in this medical conference, football fields full of people. And every time you go to a conference, they show the same thing. We did these experiments, no difference in survival. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they're talking about my mom's disease, and everyone responded. And I just got up, and it wasn't professional. I just got up and I ran across the football field of an auditorium. And when Charles Sawyer came down, I'm like, I have to get my mom on this clinical trial. And so We did. She got on the phase 2 trial, and she lived another 14 years.
14.
14.
That's amazing.
23 in total.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so that's why I call this company Florica Therapeutics, in honor of this amazing spirit my mother had, this dedication to make a difference, the will to fight, the will to change our fate, basically. And so our mission is to extend human lifespan. We're in the gene therapy space now. We have we've made these beautiful brain cells that nobody's been able to make before. We've differentiated them from stem cells, and now they produce these particles called exosomes. We load these exosomes with proteins that babies are deficient in, and these particles are able to cross the blood-brain barrier. So for the first time, we're able to deliver proteins across the blood-brain barrier.
That's huge. And sounds like it has been really successful for your company. And what's next? Like, what are the things you're working on right now to make the next breakthrough?
We have to improve the efficiency, of course. What we have right now is an MVP, and an MVP, of course, is the minimal viable product. This is not something you can use in humans at the moment. We have to continue doing research. We have to do more testing in mice. We have to put together a team and raise money, and the whole phase 1, 2, 3 clinical trials. But it's been quite an experience.
Yeah.
I moved into MPC Biolabs on the day they announced the shutdown of the pandemic.
Okay, interesting. What a timing. Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah. How did you survive? I mean, obviously you're still there. Yeah.
It was one of the most difficult things I've been through.
Yeah.
I have a very supportive husband, and he works 2-3 jobs to keep us afloat.
He's here, by the way.
Yes. I remember the panic because there was so much enthusiasm, and there was an expectation that, if you have anything, you can just go and put it into clinical trials, and the government will help you fund it. So a lot of people were talking about how much time they had on their hands, but on the other hand, it was just panic, and how do I make a difference? How do I switch what I'm doing now to apply to COVID? How do we save people's lives?
Yeah.
So we applied for a grant at the National Science Foundation, and they accepted it, which is just crazy because here we are working with brain, and the part of the brain we're working on controls different hormones and the immune system as well. So the notion was that these exosome particles, if we give them from a healthy person to a sick person, they can reset your homeostatic mechanisms. And so we got funded to develop a COVID treatment using the brain, which I think is the most amazing thing, that the National Science Foundation is willing to do such experimental therapies and really push innovation. Everyone else we had talked to wanted us to show mouse data, and that's the most craziest thing, because it's one thing to build an app and to sell it, but to have mouse data, you need to open up a lab, and then open up a vivarium, and then do all this training and hire all these scientists, and it's a very big upfront cost.
Sure. Unlike software, right? I'm in software right now. It's easy because you don't have a lot of upfront costs, right? You just code it up and then push your MVP quickly. But it's very different in your field, right? So
many people told me it couldn't be done. And we have a lot of startups now, but they all come from an academic center. And you have like this big famous PI, and I look at myself, and at the time I was working from home, so I'm like, I'm just a housewife. And I mean, I have a PhD, but when I talk to people, they're like, where do you work? who's your boss? And I'm like, well, I work at home. And I just saw all these attitudes I didn't expect people to have. And it's made me a better person. It's made me look at people and see what they have to offer and really appreciate how much, females do to organize the household and how applicable many of these skills are to business. So I think it's really helped me become a better manager.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there was always that fear that I have to make it out of here,
Yeah. I can certainly relate to that. Yeah. It's like you almost got these like chips on your shoulder, right? You don't have to like really prove yourself.
Yeah.
But what you mentioned, just now is like, hey, like don't let anyone or all of these, external events define who you are. Know your value, right? And just, believe in yourself. I think that was something that truly resonated with me.
Absolutely. I think that's the one defining characteristic between someone who succeeds and someone who doesn't, especially in entrepreneurship. The ability to just keep going forward and to keep pushing forward when everybody says it's not possible, when people say, the odds are against you. Those who succeed are the ones that just keep walking forward. Because the more you fail, the more you learn. And so you're not, if you've failed 100 times, you're not a failure. You're someone who has opened 100 different doors. And so now you know what to expect. Now you know that when you open that 101 door, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience.
I love that, right? So there's a concept in software, by the way, it's rapid prototyping, right? You just keep doing, keep iterating, rapid iterations, and then you can actually launch something that is somewhat scrappy, right? But push it to prod anyways, right? So I like this idea. It's like, hey, failures don't just mean that you are a failure. You're just experimenting, a lot of things. You're doing a lot of things, right? Because like naysayers, they can actually just say, hey, no. But the actual doers are the ones that are actually going to change the world, right?
Absolutely. And in many ways, it's important to fail. Because if you don't fail, you're doing something that everyone can do.
Yeah. It's easy then, no brainer, right? Like,
exactly.
You don't need to be doing this, right? So.
Yeah. I read a lot of Jim Collins' books, Good to Great. And that's really helped me a lot when I was getting off the ground. Because a lot of people think that you need to be a flashy, narcissistic person to be a good CEO, and that's the opposite.
Yeah.
These charismatic leadership CEOs, that's not what makes a company successful. What makes a company successful is a leader who values their people, who puts the company before themselves, and who really pushes and works on it and has discipline and beliefs. And so, it doesn't matter if you're shy, it doesn't matter if you're introverted. As long as you do the work, that's all that matters.
I like that. Yeah, it's oftentimes we see on TV, maybe like shows, right? Like, hey, it's like CEOs wear like fancy dress, and then they have to talk and walk the walk, and then sound the part, right? But the most important part is you do the work. You believe in the company's mission.
Exactly.
Sounds like, your journey, by the way, is amazing, right? I'm deeply touched by, obviously your mother's story and what you've done so far. Tell me, like, how you get the inspiration, say, like, how do you keep going? I mean, you mentioned that, hey, it's like, things can get really tough. I can relate to that, right? Because entrepreneurship, by the way, it's not easy. It's not for everyone, right? But how do you keep going? How do you keep believing what you do, right? How do you keep pushing yourself forward? What's that driver? What a motivator for you? I mean, obviously it's your mother, but like day to day, right? How do you keep going?
I think it's intrinsic. I just do.
You just do.
And I don't know. You have to believe that it will turn out at the end. Mm-hmm. You have to believe that there's a purpose. Mm-hmm. And if you have that belief, it gives you the motivation to wake up even when it's difficult. Mm-hmm. And I really wish more people would talk about how difficult it is. Mm-hmm. Because founders have such incredible incredible pressure.
Yes.
Because on the one hand side, you're breaking inside. Like, you wake up and you think, there's no way I can possibly go on. I mean, today is just so hectic, but nobody can see that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it all the more difficult, because you have to put on a smile, you have to convince the investors that everything is perfect, you have the public, yes, we are going to succeed. And nobody talks about the person.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that makes the founder journey so much more difficult. Ben Horowitz talks about it in his book, and I think it's so important that we have this discussion because, there's a lot of talent out there that has the ability to be a really good CEO, and this cutthroat world where someone becomes a good CEO. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. CEO.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
this cutthroat world where we think that there's only so much of the pie to go around,
Yeah.
and that we have to compete with each other instead of pulling people up. That's just not the reality of it.
Yeah.
We've been through this ICOR process where we've talked to
What's that? ICOR?
ICOR.
What's that?
I've
never heard of it.
The NSF has come up with this idea of customer discovery, where they take you out of your comfort zone and they push you out and make you talk to people.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So basically it's validating the market. And most startups fail, not so much from lack of money, but they build the invention, they build the product, and then there is no market. And so we went out, and the first batch was talking to 30 pharmaceutical companies, and now we're in the national cohort where we have to go out and talk to 100. So in total, 130 people that we've talked to. And we've talked to everyone. We've talked to vendors, we've talked to vice president research, directors, and everyone was so cooperative. They were so willing to help you out and to tell you, if you want to sell to pharma, this is what you need.
Yeah.
If you want to have a conversation with me, these are the parameters. And so I really don't believe this zero-sum game. I believe that anybody can make a difference, and we all have it within ourselves to make a difference. And you just have to keep going and keep believing. And I think the most difficult thing is to just believe in yourself and to keep pushing, even when nobody else believes.
I love that. And especially when you say it's not zero-sum game, right? Almost like, even for some of the profitable companies, I feel like, hey, you always want to seek out this balance between your profit and then the external, the community that you're actually serving, also the world around you, like how they can benefit because of you. This like almost symmetry of the game, right? Not just only for yourself, but also for others. And I love this idea of, hey, let's, make the world better, right? Through all of these different, channels and people and companies. Definitely.
Absolutely, and I really believe that that's where we're going, because some of the best companies in the world, it's not sustainable. I mean, you can trick someone one time, but if you want a customer, you have to build something that they need. You're doing them a favor. It's really a partnership between, the product market fit.
Yeah.
And so if you have something that the customer doesn't value, why are you even doing it?
Yeah, exactly. There has to be value add, right? So then it becomes a very sustainable, not just business, but also relationship, right, with your customer. So then, tell me in layman's terms, obviously I don't have biology background, right? So excuse me that, say if, you can actually make this, your company successful, your product successful, then what can I do, right, for, say, me, someone like me, right? Tell me, like, in layman's terms.
Okay, well, hopefully not for you per se, but for a patient, we can treat diseases that cannot be treated right now. We're beginning in the rare disease space. We're beginning with lysosomal storage disorders. So these are children who are born without a specific gene. And right now, these are orphan diseases, so there's nothing for them. And it's just a horrible think, like really. So we're able to make the proteins and deliver them to the specific cells in the brain where they are needed. And so we haven't done it in humans yet, so we don't know if it's going to work. But the idea is that we're going to be able to cure people who have genetic defects. If we take it one step further, we can start thinking about glioblastoma and all these tumors in the brain that cannot be treated because you can't deliver the drugs across the blood-brain barrier. If we go even further, you have all these neurological diseases that are ineffective or that have really bad side effects. There's a lot of people on antidepressants, and one of the side effects is weight gain. If we can target it specifically to the right part of the brain, it might be possible to do away with all these negative effects.
Through someone's blood, like stream, is that what you're thinking about?
Either the bloodstream, we're also thinking about the nose.
Okay, like sniff in.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, because the nose is connected to the brain.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Oh. All right, let's continue. Where are we? I was like, what are the questions, right? So you're saying that you can cure these very rare genetic diseases for babies, right? Because I know that some parents, if they have these babies, it's almost like no hope for them because there's no cure right now.
Exactly. So we don't know until we do the clinical trial, and there's a lot of risk.
Of course.
But that's the vision. The vision is being able to transport all of these drugs and proteins across the blood-brain barrier. And by doing so, we're going to be able to treat all these neurological diseases that before basically had no hope.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's really, a lot of people say, hey, I'm here to change the world. I really think that you're changing the world, right? Because that's huge. And I'm just curious, are there other companies who are actually doing this?
Yeah. There's a few other companies in this space. Koyuki is a big one.
Okay.
We have a cell that nobody's been able to produce before.
Okay.
And we produced it in the lab by taking stem cells and turning it into this cell type. And the difference is that our cells also contain all these mRNAs and molecules that suppress neural inflammation. And so it's kind of like a 2-for-1. It's like two different mechanisms.
Interesting. Okay. I think that we all know MR is right now because of COVID, right? But can you explain what that is? Or?
It's just instructions.
Yeah.
So it's just different molecules inside the cell that tell the host cell what to do.
So the set of rules or programs in your genes, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow. Cool. I think that thank you so much for sharing what you're doing, right? I want to kind of take a step back and just ask other questions related to what you do. For instance, a lot of listeners and viewers might be interested in knowing, hey, how do you pitch, right? How do you actually fundraise, right? Because that's a huge topic. How do you do it? What are some of the tricks would you like that you can share?
Well, we started pitching a lot, and everyone told us we had no data, and I need a lot of data, and so we applied for government grants.
Okay.
So I'd love to give more tips, but I wasn't very successful. I like to think outside of the box, and so there's no point in competing with everyone else. I like to think of different ways to get around and to get the same end. One way that we plan to fundraise, and there's no guarantee it will be successful, is that I've written a book.
Oh, wow. You have?
I have.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
120,000 words about my journey, about how I rollerbladed across Canada.
Right.
But it's not about that. What the book is about is how we can make a difference and how, it's my story, but it's really about hope.
Yes. That's a consistent theme that I see, right? In all your stories and why you start this company as well.
Well, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
I love that. And there are a lot of things that are like that, right? It's like, I mean, it's not like you wish you unsee it, but it's that it just fundamentally changes who you are.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm a happy-go-lucky person. It's not like I'm like a yay, I'm a cheerleader. Because you have to be grounded in reality. You have to be able to face all the darkness and all the reasons things won't happen. But it's that silent conviction inside that it doesn't matter what is thrown at you, you have what it takes to overcome. But I mean, it's really that simple. You just have to keep going. And I remember thinking during these COVID times, all we have to do is stay alive.
Yeah.
And just by being alive, we will do so much better than all these startups who are throwing in the towel.
Yeah, I like that mentality. It's like, hey, let's get the fundamentals, let's get the basics, right? Like, know what you have to do now, right? What's the priority now, right? At the time, it's like, stay alive.
And the amazing thing is that the farther along you go, people start to see that and they start flocking to you.
I like that,
And it's amazing because, I mean, we've had some really amazing successes recently, and it's just like when I was skating across Canada. One day I'm sleeping in the rain in a tent, the next you're talking to the governor,
Ups and downs, yes,
And the only thing that matters is really the vision. And so you just keep your eyes on the prize, and it doesn't matter how low you go, and it doesn't matter how high you get. You're not either of these people. When people sing your praise and they tell you, oh, you're such an inspiration, I love you, they don't love me. Nobody knows me. It's the vision. And so you can't let it get to you. You can't be either the high and you can't be the low either.
I like that. Like, sounds, that you're very grounded, right? Like, because the fact that you know who you are, you know your vision, right? More than anyone else. Well, by the way, we're going to actually link Christine's book, so check it out, right? What's the title of the book? I didn't ask yet.
I haven't made it yet.
Oh, okay. I thought it was published. Okay,
It's not
work in progress, right? Okay, I was gonna advertise for you, but that's when you think that
it's going to be available in the next year because I need to, my funding's running out and it has to be available. And it's crazy. Like, books don't make money.
No, of course.
Nobody makes money off books.
Yeah.
And so as a fundraising strategy, I'm either a genius or I'm an idiot. And I know it can go either way. But there's no equity to give up. And I'm just so passionate about this book because it's really the message that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your life circumstances are, you can change it. It's within each and every one of us to change fate. And you just have to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. You just have to believe that it doesn't matter what they throw at you, there's a way to overcome it.
I like that. Wow. All the stories that you've shared, right, are really, I'm moved, right? So, let's try this, right? We're going to actually do this thing. It's called question streak. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, right? 10 questions, maybe 20 questions, and then you can actually give me short answers, right? First of all, you talk about books a lot, right? What are the top 5 books that changed your life and you?
Okay, well, there's David Allen, the book about time management. I've read a lot of Peter Drucker, The Effective Executive. I listen to a lot of podcasts too.
What are some podcasts? Mine's like Master of Skill, by the way.
Master of Skill? Yes! Absolutely!
Oh, okay. I'm going to give you a hug, right? But it's like COVID, so no. But yes, that's my favorite too. Yeah.
Masters of Skill and Management Tools. That's an amazing podcast. I also like The Alchemist.
Ah.
That is such a good book.
Yeah. I didn't finish it though. I should go back. I only read a few pages.
I listen to audiobooks
Yeah. Oh.
I put on the headphones and then I walk my dogs and.
Nice. Okay. Seems like you're a dog person. That was the next question. Dog or cat? Right? It looks like you're a dog.
Huskies.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
So it's kind of they're dogs, but they have the personality of a cat.
Oh, interesting. The best of two worlds. Awesome. Where did you do your big idea thinking, right? Because a lot of times, for some people it's morning, when, running, jogging, like, what's your moment?
I used to do it when I'd commute.
Mm-hmm.
I used to commute from Livermore to Silicon Valley, so it was like 2 hours each way, and at first it was hell. But then I started listening to podcasts. And then, it's like 2 hours of uninterrupted time where you can just think and you can think about ideas and where you want to go. Luckily, I don't have to do that commute anymore. So now it's, when you take a bath, when you go for a walk, when you drive to the lab.
Yeah. Oh, nice. There are a lot of the Silicon Valley, and by the way, we're in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, right? So there are a lot of myths around Silicon Valley. What's real, what's fake, right? Tell me, from your experience.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
This place is just unreal.
Yeah. Surreal, right? It's like not on Earth, like maybe Mars we're living.
You can find some of the best talent. If you want to hire the best photographer, we have an Illinois chef.
My husband is here, so he's
yes. We were looking for a photographer to shoot my rollerblading through San Francisco.
That was amazing, by the way, right? Check out, right? We can actually send a link to your article, but that was amazing,
You can find people who shoot for Sports Illustrated.
Right.
I called this guy up, I'm like, hey, are you available on Friday? And he's like, no, I have a couple of shoots for Sports Illustrated.
Wow.
But it's the place where dreams come true. Yeah. If you want to become famous, you go to Hollywood. If you want to start a company, you come to San Francisco.
I like that. Yeah.
But nobody gives you money. It's not handed to you.
Really? I'm just kidding. I've heard every week, it's like there's so many stars getting lots of money.
Well, yes, but you have to put in the work.
Yeah, just trying to be ironic. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Cool. I lost. Okay, we're gonna cut it, right? What's next, right? Say, obviously you want to, make this company successful, but tell me, what are some of the milestones that you're trying to hit? Personally and professionally too, right? So.
Okay. Well, personally, I want this book to take off.
Yeah.
I want to show my story. I want to show people, not just my story, but my mother's story. She fought for 23 years. Doctors told her it was impossible. There is no hope. And she fought. She wanted to see her children live, to see them grow up. And she had a mission, and she fought, and she did it. And so I think it's really important that people know that research saves lives. And the work that we do makes a difference and actually changes human lives. In the lab, I want this company to take off. I want to become another Genentech. And I know that's a big, bold idea.
That's why we're here.
Why not?
Yes.
We have one product in the pipeline, but we have a platform, and so it's easy enough to go back into the lab and to iterate and to make other products for the pipeline. And so we're going to start off in genetic diseases. We're going to move into glioblastoma. We're going to go to other brain types. This brain cell we're working on, it controls so many things. Yeah. Diabetes even, weight loss.
Yeah. That's amazing, right? It can literally change our lives, everyday life, right? So, So, what defines, in your definition, right? What defines entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship, well, we all know the saying, it's jumping off a cliff.
Cliff, yes! That's like read half minutes, by the way, right?
But it's so much more, because in order to get to the top of the cliff, you need to be different. You need to think for yourself. You need to want to solve problems. You have to be passionate. You have to not be afraid to go your own way. You have to be able to see this golden lane that's been promised and to say, you know what, I think this is a better path.
I like that, being a contrarian. I mean, that's the theme of this, right? And also just be bold, right?
Be bold.
Just go do it, right?
Exactly.
What's your favorite adage or saying?
If you're going through hell, keep going.
Press where it hurts. I love that. It actually means so much when it comes from you, right? Just understanding your background and your journey, right? I know some of the listeners and viewers are interested in becoming, starting their own company.
Yeah.
What are some advice that you can give to these younger, upcoming startup guys?
Yeah, just do it. And it's going to be a difficult path. Get as much experience as you can. A lot of people in Silicon Valley think you have to be like 12 to start a company. That's okay. If you're 12, go for it.
Yeah, nothing to lose, right?
If you're 50, go for it.
Never too late.
It's never too late. I think, if you have passion, if you have dreams, if you want to change the world, there's nothing stopping you. If you want to do it while you're working at a company, you have to be careful with IP and stuff. But get your company involved. If you want to make change, you can do it right here, right now. There's nothing stopping you. You can get books from the library and start reading. Seth Godin is amazing. Listen to these podcasts. See how other people have been through the journey. Y Combinator has a really amazing program called Startup School.
Yeah.
There's really nothing stopping you.
Amazing. Well, personally, I have been very, very inspired by your journey and your story. So thank you so much, Christine. I hope you get inspired by her stories as well. Wow, we did great.
It was awesome.
Ah, we are awesome. Are you
just asleep?
Oh.
When we're talking about Florica Therapeutics, we're talking about Christine. This really is her story. Christine, honestly, is one of the most remarkable women I've ever met. And it's pretty good luck I ended up getting married to her. But this woman, she's an athlete, she's a scientist, she's an entrepreneur, she's a humanitarian. She's got a lot going on. And she is trying to change the world in a good way. And it's very exciting to be part of that journey. When she first started talking about starting her own company, I thought, this is something you need to do. This is. And if I need to, go work a little bit here and there to help make that happen, okay, I can do that. Because at the end of the day, I am on board with that mission. She has some great, great ideas. She does have a vision. And she can make change. She's done it already. Quick story I like to tell people. When we first started going out, we'd met when she was at Lawrence Berkeley National Labs. And I thought I'd Google her just to see, okay, who is this person? Let's see if she has any outstanding traffic warrants or anything. Holy smokes, what came up was this business where she rollerbladed across Canada. I'm just like, she did that? And then when I asked her about it later, well, yeah, I did that. She was all like, yeah, it's okay, that was then, this is now. And it was like, whoa, that would have been, I couldn't even imagine somebody tackling something that ambitious. But as I got to know her, I realized, no, that's who she is. That's what she does. And so when she said she wanted to move forward with this, she said, I think we can make a difference in people's lives. I think we can address some of these rare diseases. I think we can save lives. I'm a retired paramedic. Once upon a time, I worked on the streets of San Francisco, and saving lives is what I did for a living. And now I have a chance to help save lives again, only this time it's in a laboratory, which I never imagined was something I would ever do. But yeah, when you fall into Christine's orbit, you end up getting outside of your comfort zone. And that I have done. So I'm looking forward to moving on. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. She's hit every benchmark she's set for herself so far. And I have no reason to doubt she'll keep hitting them. So that's why I'm here. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. I'm married to someone who can see up around the corner. And I'm looking forward to seeing what she's seeing because it's pretty special.